Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about something simple but powerful, the best moments in our lives. You know, those moments that stay with you no matter how much time passes.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when people think about best moments, they often imagine big achievements like winning something, graduating, or reaching a huge goal. But honestly, sometimes the best moments are the quiet ones.
Exactly, like those random days when everything just feels right. You're not doing anything special, but you feel happy, calm, and present. Those moments don't look big from the outside, but they mean a lot.
I agree. For me, one of the best moments isn't even about success. It's just sitting with friends, laughing about something stupid, no pressure, no stress, just being there.
That's true. I think people underestimate how powerful simple happiness is. We're always chasing big wins, but we forget that life is actually made up of small moments.
And sometimes you don't even realize it's a best moment until later, like when you look back and think, wow, that was actually a really good time.
Yeah, like memories from school or late night conversations, or even struggles that you survived. At the time, they might feel hard, but later they become meaningful.
That's a good point. Even difficult moments can turn into best moments in a different way. Not because they were easy, but because they made you stronger.
Right. It's like those moments where you didn't give up, even when you wanted to. Those are powerful. They shape who you are.
And I think another important thing is being present. A lot of people miss their best moments because they're too distracted, always on their phones or thinking about the next thing.
That's so true. If you're always focused on what's next, you'll never fully experience what's happening now. And sometimes now is actually the best part.
So maybe the real question is, how do we recognize these moments while they're happening?
I think it starts with slowing down, paying attention, appreciating small things, like a good conversation, a peaceful morning, or even just feeling proud of yourself for something small.
Yeah, gratitude plays a big role. When you're grateful, even ordinary moments feel special.
And I think people should also create more moments, not just wait for them. Try new things, spend time with people who matter, take risks. That's how memories are made.
Definitely, because if you keep doing the same thing every day without intention, everything just blends together. But when you step out of your routine, that's when moments stand out.
And sometimes the best moments come unexpectedly. You didn't plan them, you didn't see them coming, but they end up meaning the most.
That's what makes them special. You can't force them, but you can be open to them.
So maybe the idea isn't to chase perfect moments, but to be aware of the real ones happening around you.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when you look back at your life, it's not just about what you achieved. It's about what you felt, who you were with, and the moments that made you smile.
And maybe right now, someone listening is actually in one of their best moments. They just don't realize it yet.
That's a powerful thought. It kind of makes you want to pause and appreciate what's happening right now.
Exactly, because one day, today could be a memory you wish you could go back to. And when you really think about it, the idea of best moments starts to change. It's not just about what happens to you, it's about how you experience what's happening.
Yeah, because two people can be in the exact same situation, and one sees it as just another normal day, while the other sees it as something special.
That difference is mindset. The ability to recognize value in something simple is what makes moments feel meaningful.
And I think that's something people can actually train. Like you can practice becoming more aware and more appreciative.
Definitely. For example, instead of rushing through your day, you can slow down just a little. Pay attention to your surroundings, your thoughts, even your emotions.
It sounds simple, but it's not easy. We're so used to being busy all the time. Slowing down almost feels uncomfortable.
That's true, but maybe that discomfort is a sign that we need it, because when you slow down, you start to notice things you've been missing.
Like the way a conversation flows, or how someone laughs, or even how you feel in a certain moment. Those details matter more than we think.
And those details are what turn an ordinary moment into something memorable.
I also think reflection plays a big role. Taking time to look back at your day and asking yourself, what was a good moment today?
That's powerful, because even on bad days, there's usually at least one small moment that was good.
Exactly. And when you train your mind to find those moments, you start to shift your overall outlook on life.
Instead of focusing on what went wrong, you start noticing what went right. And over time, that changes how you feel daily. You become less negative and more balanced.
I like that idea. Not forcing positivity, but becoming more aware of reality, including the good parts we usually ignore.
Yeah, because life isn't perfect. There will always be problems, but that doesn't mean there are no good moments.
It just means you have to look for them.
And sometimes you have to create them. Do something different, step out of your comfort zone, or even just start a meaningful conversation.
That's true. A simple decision can lead to a moment you'll remember for a long time.
And those moments build your story. When you look back at your life, it's not one big highlight. It's a collection of small, meaningful experiences.
That's what makes life feel full. Not perfection, but presence.
Presence, that's a strong word, because when you're truly present, you're not stuck in the past or worried about the future.
You're just there, experiencing what's in front of you.
And that's where most of the best moments actually exist, in the present.
But it's hard to stay there. Our minds naturally drift.
True, but even realizing that your mind is drifting is already a step forward. It means you're becoming aware.
And awareness gives you control. You can choose to come back to the moment instead of getting lost in thoughts.
I think that's something a lot of people need to hear. You don't have to control everything in your life, just your attention.
Because where your attention goes, your experience follows.
And if your attention is always on problems, stress, and pressure, then life will feel heavy.
But if you start directing your attention to small good moments, even just a few each day, life starts to feel different.
Not perfect, but lighter, more meaningful.
And maybe that's the goal. Not to have a perfect life, but a life filled with moments that actually mean something to you.
Moments that you can look back on and say, yeah, that was real, that mattered.
And the best part is, you don't have to wait for those moments. You can start noticing them today, right now.
Which means the next best moment could be closer than you think. So, continuing from that idea, if the best moments are often hidden in everyday life, then the real question becomes, why do we miss them so often?
I think it's because we're constantly chasing something. We're always thinking about the next goal, the next upgrade, the next stage of life. And in that process, we forget what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's like life becomes a checklist instead of an experience. Wake up, work, study, repeat, and suddenly days turn into weeks without you even realizing it.
Exactly. And then one day you look back and think, where did the time go? But the truth is, the time was always there. We were just not fully present in it.
That's a strong point, and I think that's where regret usually comes from. Not from what we did, but from what we didn't notice or appreciate while it was happening.
Yeah, and that's kind of scary when you think about it, because it means your current life is also going to become a memory someday.
Which means today is already part of your story. Even this exact moment right now is something you'll never get back.
That's why attention is so important. If you're distracted all the time, you're basically skipping through your own life without experiencing it fully.
And I don't think people realize how often that happens. Like scrolling on your phone for hours, thinking about random things, but not really living the moment you're in.
Yeah, and it's not even about blaming technology or anything. It's more about awareness. You can use things, but you shouldn't lose yourself in them.
True, and I think another reason people miss best moments is because they expect them to look a certain way.
What do you mean?
Like, people think a best moment has to be exciting, loud, or perfect, but in reality, it can be something really simple.
Oh yeah, like sitting quietly with someone you trust, or just feeling comfortable in your own space.
Exactly. Or even moments where nothing dramatic is happening, but you feel okay. No stress, no pressure, just peace.
And peace is underrated. A lot of people don't realize that peace can be one of the best feelings you can have.
I agree, because peace means your mind is not fighting itself. You're not overwhelmed. You're just existing without pressure.
And ironically, that's what many people are trying to reach through success or money, but they forget it can also come from simple moments.
That's a good point. It's like people chase happiness in the future, but ignore peace in the present.
And maybe that's the shift people need, not chasing something far away, but recognizing what's already here.
But it's not always easy, especially when life feels stressful. When you have problems, it's hard to think about best moments.
True, but even in stressful times, there are small pauses, small breaks where things are okay, even just for a few seconds.
And those seconds matter more than people think, because they remind you that not everything is bad, even when things feel heavy.
That's actually powerful, noticing light even in dark situations.
Yeah, and I think people who learn to do that become stronger mentally. They don't ignore problems, but they don't let problems define everything either.
So, in a way, best moments aren't just happy moments, they're also moments of strength, clarity, and awareness.
Exactly. It's not just laughter or success. It can be realizing something important about yourself or making it through a hard day.
And those moments often go unnoticed, even though they shape who you are.
That's why reflection is important. If you never stop and think, you'll miss how far you've actually come.
Yeah, and sometimes people think they're not progressing, but they just haven't looked back properly.
And when they do, they realize they've grown more than they thought through experiences, mistakes, and even struggles.
Which means every part of life, even the hard parts, can contain something valuable.
So maybe the idea is not to wait for best moments to appear, but to understand they are already happening in different forms.
And once you start seeing that, your whole perspective changes. Life doesn't suddenly become perfect, but it becomes more meaningful.
And maybe that's what people are really looking for. Not a perfect life, but a life where moments actually matter.
Moments you don't just go through, but actually feel, remember, and carry with you.
So, continuing from that thought, it's kind of crazy to realize that some of the moments we ignore today could be the ones we miss the most in the future.
Yeah, and I think that's something people don't really think about. We're always waiting for something bigger, something better, but what if this is already part of the good times?
Exactly. Like, imagine looking back 5 years from now. The things you're stressing about today might not even matter anymore, but the moments, the people, the laughter, those are what stay.
That reminds me of how people say you never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. And honestly, that hits hard.
It really does. And I think that's why we should be more intentional with how we spend our time, because time is literally what creates those best moments.
True. And it's not about filling your day with big events. It's about how you experience the little things. Even something like walking outside, listening to music, or having a deep conversation.
Or even just being alone and feeling at peace. That's something a lot of people struggle with, being comfortable with themselves.
Yeah, because we're so used to distractions. Silence feels uncomfortable for some people. But sometimes your best moments come from those quiet spaces where you can actually hear your own thoughts.
That's deep. And I think another thing is the people you surround yourself with play a huge role in your best moments.
Definitely. The right people can turn an ordinary day into something unforgettable. And the wrong people, well, they can drain the life out of even the best situations.
So choosing your circle carefully is important, not just for your growth, but for the kind of memories you create.
And let's be honest, some of the best moments come from shared experiences. Laughing with someone, supporting each other, going through things together, that's what makes it meaningful.
Yeah, because moments feel different when you're not alone. There is something powerful about connection.
But at the same time, I think people should learn to create moments for themselves, too. Not every good moment has to involve others.
That's true. Like achieving a personal goal or finally doing something you were scared of. Those moments hit differently because you know what it took to get there.
And those are the moments that build confidence. They remind you that you're capable of more than you think.
I like that. So, in a way, best moments are not just about happiness, they're about growth, connection, and meaning.
Yeah, and sometimes even struggle plays a role, because without challenges, those good moments wouldn't feel as rewarding.
That's a good perspective. It's like contrast. You appreciate light more when you've experienced darkness.
Exactly. And I think that's why people who've gone through a lot often value small moments more. They understand how important peace and happiness really are.
So maybe instead of constantly chasing the next big thing, we should start asking ourselves, am I fully living this moment right now?
That question alone can change your mindset. It makes you pause and actually experience life instead of just rushing through it.
And when you start doing that, you realize that the best moments are not rare. They're everywhere. You just have to notice them.
Yeah, they're hidden in your daily life, in your routines, your conversations, your thoughts, even in the simplest things.
And the more aware you become, the more moments you start to appreciate.
Which means, in a way, you're creating a better life without changing anything external, just your perspective.
That's powerful, because a lot of people think they need more money, more success, or more achievements to feel like they're living their best life.
But sometimes it's not about having more, it's about noticing more.
I like that. Not having more, noticing more.
Yeah, because the truth is, your best moments might already be happening. You just need to slow down enough to see them.
So, as we continue talking about the best moments in life, I think it's important to understand one final idea. Not all moments are meant to be loud or unforgettable in the way we expect.
Yeah, because a lot of people think their life has to be full of highlights every day. But real life isn't like that. Most of it is actually simple, quiet, and normal.
And that's where people usually make a mistake. They overlook the normal days thinking nothing important is happening, when in reality, those days are building their entire life story.
Exactly. Like you don't always notice growth while it's happening, but when you look back, you realize those normal days were actually important steps.
And I think that's what best moments really are. Not just big celebrations, but also the quiet progress you make when no one is watching.
Yeah, like improving yourself, learning something new, or even just getting through a tough day without giving up.
Those moments don't always feel special in the moment, but they become special when you reflect on them later.
And reflection is key, because without it, everything just feels like routine. But with reflection, even routine becomes meaningful.
That's true. And I think another thing people forget is that best moments are not always about happiness. Sometimes they're about realization.
What kind of realization?
Like realizing you've grown, or realizing you've changed in a good way, or even realizing that something you once struggled with doesn't control you anymore.
That's powerful, because it means progress itself can be a best moment.
Exactly. And progress doesn't have to be big. It can be small, like improving your mindset, your habits, or how you handle problems.
And those small improvements compound over time. They build the person you become.
But here's the thing. Most people don't celebrate those small wins. They ignore them because they're waiting for something bigger.
Yeah, like waiting for graduation, success, money, or some major life event. But life doesn't only exist in those big milestones.
It exists in between them too. And honestly, most of your life happens in between.
That's actually deep when you think about it. The in-between is where you live the most, even if it doesn't feel important at the time.
And maybe that's why people feel like time is passing so fast, because they're not fully present in those in-between moments.
Right. They're always thinking ahead or stuck in the past, instead of actually living now.
So if there's one lesson from all of this, it's that awareness changes everything.
Yeah, because the moment you become aware, even ordinary life starts to feel different. You start noticing things you used to ignore.
Like conversations, emotions, small achievements, or even just peaceful moments where nothing bad is happening.
And those moments, even if they seem small, are actually what make life feel full.
I think people underestimate how much meaning can exist in simple experiences.
Definitely, because meaning isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet and subtle.
And the more you practice noticing those moments, the more your mindset shifts. You stop waiting for happiness and start recognizing it.
And that changes how you live every day. You stop feeling like life is missing something all the time.
Instead, you start realizing that life has always been happening around you.
And you were part of it the whole time.
So maybe the real goal isn't to chase the best moment of your life,
But to recognize that there are many best moments scattered throughout your life already.
and if you pay attention, you'll see them more often than you think.
Because life doesn't wait for perfect timing. It happens right now.
And if you're not careful, you might miss it while waiting for something bigger.
So slow down, pay attention, and appreciate what's in front of you.
Because one day, these moments you're living right now will become memories you can never return to.
And hopefully, when that time comes, you'll be glad you actually noticed them.
Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.